André Téchiné asked you to write Rendezvous for
No,
him?
it was before that.
Before, okay.
It was before. When I was writing for Cahiers du Cinéma, I was. You don't make a living writing those kinds of magazines, right? So you need to have a day job. So it was more like. I made my own short films, but again, that was not a way to make a living. So I worked as a screenwriter. I worked as a screenwriter first for friends who were like, who were like me, who were making short films and wanted to move on and make greater things, and ultimately with André Téchiné, but it's so meeting André Téchiné was a big influence on me. I mean, it was very important for me. But this whole thing of working as a screenwriter was essential because I felt that whenever I was writing for the magazine for Cahiers, I was also practicing cinema. So it was like back and forth. I was involved in filmmaking and at the same time trying to reflect on my practice as a filmmaker.
I mean, with something like Irma Vep, I'm jumping ahead a little bit.
Sure.
Had you sort of some of those thoughts? It's kind of about filmmaking. It's kind of about an Asian film star. How do you sort of coalesce all these sort of? How do you sit down and bring together everything that's in your head?
Well, it comes at a weird moment for me. It comes when I've been working like for a couple of years on a big project, which ended up becoming Les Destinées Sentimentales, like a big period piece, 3 hours, adapted from a classic French novel, and it ended up happening like 4 years later. But in 1996 when I made Irma Vep, it was in the works. It was going to happen maybe sometimes. We're not sure. Depends on the financing. Just please wait. And I can't sit still. I can't just wait for the film to happen. So I had this kind of short window of opportunity to make very fast another movie. And I was so frustrated with the whole financing, the heaviness of the financing of Les Destinées Sentimentales, the heaviness of the film industry. I had a lot of, it's that frustration came out as some kind of really radical, funny, fast-moving spoof of the film industry, and to me, it was more like an experimental film. We made it on no money. We shot it in like 4 weeks, meaning also the crew was paid for 3 weeks, but invested their work on the 4th week. They got paid back. I wrote it in 9 days. And I had to shoot it right away because after that it would be too late. It would conflict with the distance. So I shot it. I wrote it in the summer. I shot it like in December and January, and in May we shot it in Cannes. So it moved like really fast. And to me it was a bit. What inspired me were like the collage movies that Godard was doing in the 60s. I thought that it's something that the French cinema had lost its capacity, because the whole process of financing movies is so slow. I mean, in the 60s, in the 50s, it was faster in a certain way. You wrote a screenplay, someone was interested in financing it, and it happened. The whole process of making independent films slowed down terribly in the 70s and the 80s because all of a sudden you had to go through commissions, committees who meet like 3 times a year. So you get some money from some committee, after 6 months wait, and then you move on to the next one. And it's the whole process has made cinema lose touch with the present. And I thought that you can also try to make movies in the same pace as pop music happens, you know. So you know, just grabbing stuff that's just there floating around and coalescing them in something that is more like a collage than an actual film. And I think there's some excitement there, some energy there, and that's basically what gives birth to it.
Can you get that energy today, or is it still quite a slow process to put a film together?
I'm always trying to make films fast. I mean, I think that you need to keep focused on the reason why you wanted to make the film in the first place. I mean, if 6 months later you've forgotten really about it. For instance, when I'm Personal Shopper, it's pretty much. I mean, it was a bit slower than I would have liked, but still, it's. You know, I was Personal Shopper is a movie that happened because I had been preparing a film in Canada, which was like supposed to be some kind of American-French film, and we prepared it for 2 months. I mean, I had been researching it, writing it, took me ages. We prepared it for 2 months, and the day before the shooting, we lost our financer, who was an American madman. I used to call him American Psycho. So, you know, all of a sudden, the movie was.
Free time.
I had free time. Yeah, I had free time. So I came back to Paris, and I just sat down, wrote Personal Shopper like very fast, in 6 weeks or something, 6 weeks, and we instantly got moving, and we shot it in the fall.
And you said you wanted to make a film about contemporary Paris. Why was that something you were eager to do again?
Because I hadn't done it for. It's my life, and it's something I had not done for a while. I mean, I had been doing. Clouds of Sils Maria is outside of time in a certain way. You know, it doesn't have it's not anchored in any kind of solid present. It's a bit more abstract. And before that, I made something in the air. Carlos, some of the films were in Paris, but they were in Paris in the 70s, so I could not use the energy of the city. I could not represent whatever was the pulse of the city. And and it's something I had done a lot in my earlier film, and I thought I would be bored, you know, shooting a film in Paris again, and it was the opposite. I found it inspiring and exciting, much more than what I had anticipated.
It has a sort of lightness to it, the film, maybe because it wasn't developed for 2 years or something.
Yes, there is something very spontaneous. I mean, you know, I have a couple of, you know, I always have notes on films I want to make, which I develop or don't develop. Personal Shopper, I made it a point. I just wanted to come from nowhere. I just wanted to start from scratch and see where it takes me.
And did you enjoy this might be the first of your films that has this sort of otherworldly element, sort of a supernatural, or I don't know how you want to describe it. You know, was that interesting for you to play with that in film, or was that a challenge?
It's something that I had wanted to do for a long time. I mean, I think it's there in my other movies in a way or another, but not. I never felt ready or wanted or felt it was right to go all the way. But in a movie like Clouds of Sils Maria, it's there in a certain way. You know, it's present. You have this kind of invisible vibe or floating around. And I think it kind of emboldened me. I mean, I thought I was a bit nervous about it when I wrote and made Sils Maria, because I got away with it. I thought, okay, maybe let's see if I go a little further. What happens?
And you've obviously worked with Kristen Stewart on both of those films. What do you see in her as an actress that you like to collaborate with?
I think I discovered Kristen Stewart when we were making Clouds of Sils Maria. I mean, when Clouds of Sils Maria was written around Juliette Binoche, and I needed this young American modern girl to interact with her, and my obvious choice was Kristen, because I had met her a couple of times. I liked her a lot. I loved her work, but I did not realize the extent of her talent. I didn't and I think that as everybody in a certain way discovered something about her watching Clouds of South Maria, I discovered her on the set for basically the same reasons. I realized that there was much more to her than whatever I had imagined, and she had an amazing instinct and I think she photographed she photographs like in a unique way. So when after making Clouds of South Maria, I felt that the character I had given her was a bit one-dimensional. That if I had known her better, maybe I would have I don't know, but I mean possibly I would have emphasized the character or written it slightly differently. So when I wrote Personal Shopper inspired by her, I was not sure she would want to do it. I mean, maybe I thought it might be a bit too weird for her or something like that. So, but still, I was inspired by her and by what I sensed she could do when I was writing Maureen for Personal Shopper.
I guess in general, how do you prepare with an actor or actress? Do you go through the script? Do you talk about backstories? Do you do lots of rehearsals? Does it depend?
No, I don't work with actors. No.
You give them the script.
I just give them the script and I hardly discuss it with them.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, if they want to discuss, okay, sure, fine, I will answer their question. I will do my best. But I don't need it. I don't need it. I mean,
sometimes they need it.
Once in a while they need it, but I think if they need it too much, it gets me worried. No, I mean in the sense that I need the actors to connect in their own way with the story, the characters, and I want to discover it on the set. I mean, I think if I choose one specific actor, it's because I feel that there is an interaction with the character that can be exciting. Because in their own way, what interests me is also the way they contradict whatever I had in mind so if I start explaining what I had in mind before, it might make them a bit, I mean, they will want to adapt to my vision. And I don't want them to adapt to my vision. I want them to bring their own thoughts, their own ideas, their own feelings to the character. And so when we start shooting, I will be there to channel things. If they go off the track too much, I will kind of bring them back. But usually they understand extremely well the character, and even sometimes when I'm surprised with the way they will approach it, most of the time their vision is more exciting or more interesting than whatever I had in mind when I was writing. I mean, just in the sense that it gives more perspective, it gives some human reality to something that is just words on the paper.
Has there ever been a time that this sort of approach doesn't quite work and somebody, you don't have to name a name, but has it ever, you show up on set and somebody's doing something different than you envisioned, but you don't think you can use it?
I mean, okay, when I was preparing that film, I was supposed to shoot in Canada. It did not happen. One of the key characters was Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro works in absolutely the opposite way of whatever I did with any actor in my life. I mean, in the sense that he's obsessed with control. I hate control. I mean, control to me is like the boring thing. The most boring thing in cinema or in real life. But I'm a fan. I mean, I love his work. I admire him. I think, I was convinced he would be great in the film. But I mean, I would have to go through seances of fittings, just discussing the bands and the length of the bands or the